So this is the latest BCM Replacer video, and I've been doing a lot of work on the software over the last few days, and now I've got a busy couple of days ahead doing some other stuff. But basically I'm trying to integrate the CAN data into the normal BCM Replacer routines. So you've now got quite a few options for manipulating the data. So the BCM Replacer can now receive data or generate data either from its own onboard sensors, including the voltage, taps, currents and temperatures, or it can receive data from the Orion 2 on the CAN bus, or it can do both. And then potentially we have some comparisons available for later on. And it can do all that while it's servicing the MCM and sending out the data it's required. And if you're generating two lots of data, say using its own sensors, voltage, tap sensors, etc., and receiving CAN data, then you can select which one of those data streams to parse and send out to the MCM. So you can use your analog data or you can use your CAN data to drive the MCM. And the various screens now are slightly different. This is the present screen we got here with the BCM-N screen. This is the normal analog data screen, so it's using its own sensors here to capture data. There's nothing plugged into the BCM Replacer A board, so all the values are pretty much zero, apart from the temperature, etc., which is showing 19 degrees, as you can see at the bottom there. So if I go on to the next screen, then we get the double size data for this is just the standard BCM data. So you can see pack voltages, etc., etc., temperature, etc. So that's a bit easy to read. And then if we press the next display mode, this is the CAN data compact display mode. So this is it, and you get everything on here. Obviously there are some minor tweaks to the screen layout to do. I can spread that out a bit more to make it a bit easier to read. Obviously you don't have all the voltage tap information on here because obviously that's not available with the CAN. I mean, eventually potentially we could have individual cell voltages on another screen, but that's obviously for in the future, for when I eventually get the Orion 2 wired up to some cells. But for now we're just importing the voltage, the current, the temperature and the state of charge. And you can also do dual state of charge calculations. The BCM Replacer can calculate the state of charge itself based on the volts and amps input from the CAN, or you can just simply display what the Orion 2 thinks the BE state of charge is, which is straightforward. So if we go to the next screen, then this is the double size CAN display, just to make that a bit easier to read if you're using Orion 2 data. And as I say, you can select obviously which display mode you want. There's one more display mode, and that's a blank screen. So if you're driving at night and you don't want the screen on, you can turn it off. And now we're going back to the original screen. So the menus are obviously quite complicated. Let's go to the first menu. So this is the first menu, and you'll see we've got various things there you can do. Toggling the video output for different types of video device, Panorama TSC. All the rest is fairly straightforward. A lot of it is error checking stuff for me, or development stuff that might be removed in later in the final software. And the second menu is very similar. Menu C, okay, it's a bit more interesting. So we've got BCM mode at the top, and it says analog, both, or CAN, and that's what I was saying. So you can set the BCM Replacer to gather analog data, CAN data, or both, and you, depending on what you set that to, number 2 at the end there, it's either 0 for analog, 1 for both, or 2 for CAN, and it will gather the data according to how you set that. And the Battsci mode on the next line down, that's what it's going to output to the MCM, the parsed data. So you can either have the analog, it's sending out the analog data, or the CAN data. And then the display mode, you saw those a few minutes ago. We've got a spare entry. And then the rest of the stuff's quite self-explanatory. You can do various things there, as you can see. And then we've got quite a few variables here that you can set for limits to various things. I'm not going to bore you with all these at the minute. You've seen quite a lot of these already. I've got a couple of spare menu entries there I can use for future use. I've added and deleted various things as I've been fiddling around with this. I'm trying to get this into focus. Sorry about that, that's a bit better. Okay, and then we have You can enable and disable the various checks. So if you don't want the positive and negative recal check operative, you can disable that. Sorry, my camera's having a bit of difficulty focusing. That's better. You can disable that, and you'll be able to disable certain other aspects of the error checking as well. And then this was the flags manipulation screen I was using to set various flags on the MCM data stream to see what was happening. That's how I managed to get the DTC codes. And that's it for the menus. So there's a lot of menus there. And then we have the error menu, and you can see there's bazillions of communications errors there. That's because there are no voltage tap modules and it's not receiving any data from that. So it's obviously thinking, oh, something's gone wrong. But I've disabled. You can disable the error checking or disable the alarms as you want. So back to the original screen, and the IMA seems quite happy with this at the minute. No unexpected IMA errors. So yeah, that's been a big push over the last few days to try and integrate these two together. There's still quite a bit more work to do, as there always is with these things. But yeah, it's coming on, and now I need to do some testing in the car. Not necessarily with the Orion 2 yet, because I haven't got a pack built up ready to test that, but certainly to test the analog software, which is still running in the background, to make sure that is not being interfered with by the CAN or the Orion 2. I reckon I can put the Orion 2 in the back of the car and just not connect it to anything, just so that it is actually communicating with the BCM Replacer, and just to make sure that there's no issues with the two running side by side. So that's where we are at the moment.